Readings of Almighty God's Words. Exposing Antichrists. Item 11. They do not accept being pruned, nor do they have an attitude of repentance when they commit any wrong, but instead spread notions and publicly pass judgment on God. Today, we will fellowship on item 11 of the various manifestations of antichrists. They do not accept being pruned, nor do they have an attitude of repentance when they commit any wrong, but instead spread notions and publicly pass judgment on God. The specific content of this item is about how antichrists treat being pruned. Namely, their attitude when they are faced with this, and what they go on to do, and what manifestations they have while harboring this attitude. Have we already fellowshipped on content about how antichrists treat being pruned? So, what is an antichrist's attitude toward being pruned? Didn't we fellowship at the time on the famous sayings that antichrists utter when they are pruned? They have two famous sayings for this kind of situation. One is, "God is righteous, and I believe in God, not in some person." And the other is, "You're too wet behind the ears to prune me. If I didn't believe in God, I would give a damn about nobody." Also, they hate whoever prunes them, and in addition, as soon as they are pruned, they suspect they are going to be eliminated. At the end, we also fellowshipped about how they not only refuse to accept being pruned, but also spread notions everywhere. Isn't that what we talked about? 1. The reasons why antichrists are pruned. I just gave a quick review of our previous fellowship on how antichrists treat being pruned when it touches on their personal interests. Today, we are going to fellowship and dissect this from another angle, and take a look at what specific dispositions antichrists reveal when they are pruned, and what sort of attitude they have, as well as what their specific views are, and we will dissect their disposition based on these views. Since this involves the topic of pruning, first let's fellowship about the reasons why antichrists are pruned. Pruning isn't something that is done groundlessly. So, in what context and under what circumstances will this happen to an antichrist? Would it just be because that person is an antichrist? Some people say, anyone who has status, anyone who is in the limelight, will end up being pruned. Is that true? Then, what do antichrists do that causes them to be pruned? Will they be pruned harshly if they make an ordinary mistake? Shouldn't this be fellowshipped on? Why are antichrists pruned? Looking at it theoretically, antichrists have arrogant dispositions. They don't submit to the truth. They don't love God's words or positive things. They are averse to the truth. They hate the truth. And they are enemies of God. So they should be pruned or even mercilessly exposed. Is this statement correct? Based on their manifestations and revelations, they can be classified as antichrists. So they deserve to be pruned and even mercilessly exposed. No matter how they are pruned, they are not worthy of pity. They should be rejected. and anyone at all is justified in pruning them. Is that how things are?
It's not.
Are you sure? Why are antichrists pruned? I just mentioned several reasons for this. Some among you may feel like those reasons aren't correct, but you're not sure about it. This is because you only understand doctrines and can't see through to the essence of this. The fact that you haven't recognized this shows that you haven't seen through to the matter of why antichrists are pruned. Most people only understand doctrines regarding this matter, and they know in their hearts that an antichrist should be pruned and mercilessly exposed, but they lack discernment regarding an antichrist's actual behavior. This indicates that they cannot see through to the essence of this issue, or the essence of antichrists. Those who do not possess the truth reality only understand doctrines. They apply regulations blindly. So if there really were an antichrist doing something, they wouldn't be able to see through to it. Why might an antichrist be pruned? The reason is very simple. It is on account of their various manifestations and the different practices and behaviors that are revealed from their essence. And what are these practices, behaviors, and manifestations? First, antichrists establish their own independent kingdoms. Due to their antichrist essence, they vie with God for His chosen people, and they vie for turf and for people's hearts. All of this is them establishing their own independent kingdoms. When someone is establishing their own independent kingdom, are they doing their duty? They are running their own enterprise, managing their own sphere of influence and their authority, trying to gain exclusive control of their own turf, to form their own faction, to mislead God's chosen people so that they will reject God and follow them instead. This is not doing their duty. It is going head to head with God. When an antichrist exhibits these manifestations, when they do these things, should they be pruned? Is this one of the reasons for pruning an antichrist? Is this one of their specific manifestations?
It is.
Then why couldn't you say that just now? Aren't these words both on your lips and in your minds? Is this manifestation in conflict with the theoretical reasons that I just mentioned? What is the difference between them?
Those reasons were rather general, whereas the manifestation God just mentioned is detailed. It is a practical manifestation of an antichrist.
Those reasons mentioned before were general. They were just some doctrines. They were not the specific reasons why antichrists are pruned at all. This manifestation is one of the real reasons. The first manifestation is that they are trying to establish their own independent kingdoms. The second manifestation is their underhanded manipulation. This is of the same nature as trying to establish one's own independent kingdom, but the specific practices are different. So, what is meant by underhanded manipulation? Is this a positive or negative term? Does it have commendatory or derogatory connotations?
Derogatory connotations.
What is normally meant by underhanded manipulation? What kinds of manifestations does this include?
Antichrists doing things behind the scenes in order to consolidate their status. For example, during church elections, they solicit votes behind the scenes.
This is one of the things that it includes. In short, this kind of manifestation means doing certain things covertly, without discussing with others, without transparency, manipulating situations behind everyone's back, in particular, not allowing the above or upper leaders to know about it. Antichrists do some things secretly, knowing full well that those things go against the principles and are not in line with the truth, that those things do harm to God's house, and that God loathes those things. They still insist on doing these things, using Satan's tricks and human tactics to manipulate the situation, and then they act in secret. What are their goals behind doing things in secret? One goal is to seize power, and another is to gain whatever interests they want. To these ends, they do things that violate the truth principles, church rules, God's intentions, and even more so, their own conscience. There is no transparency in their actions. They keep things from everyone, or they only tell a small number of accomplices within their sphere of influence, so that they can achieve their goal of controlling the situation, of pulling the wool over the eyes of upper leaders and God's chosen people. Underhanded manipulation means that they make certain decisions and orchestrate some things, while most people are completely unaware. And after these things come to pass, most people don't know their source, or who started them, or what really happened. Why is it that most people are in the dark? This is the wickedness, the viciousness of an antichrist. They intentionally hoodwink the brothers and sisters, upper leaders, and the above in their actions. No matter how you try to pry into these things or who you ask, no one knows what's behind them. And, particularly for many things that happened a long time ago, most people still have no idea what was going on. This is underhanded manipulation. It is a common tactic used by antichrists. When they want to do something, they privately scheme and plan it, without discussing it with anyone else. They do their scheming in their heads if they don't have anyone they trust. If they have any accomplices, then they will scheme and plan with them in secret, and anyone within their sphere of influence may become a target of their manipulation, of their plots. What is the primary characteristic of this kind of practice? It is a lack of transparency, with most people not enjoying the right to know what's going on, and being toyed with, manipulated, and misled by antichrists while in a state of confusion. Why is it that antichrists engage in underhanded manipulation and do not act in an open or transparent way, or allow everyone the right to know what's going on? It is because they know perfectly well and clearly that what they are doing is not in line with the principles or the rules of God's house, and that they are recklessly committing misdeeds. They know that if most people were aware of what they were doing, some of them would rise up and oppose them. And if the upper leadership knew, they would be pruned and dismissed, and then their status would be in jeopardy. That is why they adopt the method of underhanded manipulation in some of the things they do, and don't allow other people to know about them. Are the consequences of their underhanded manipulation beneficial to the work of the church and God's chosen people? Are they edifying for everyone? Of course not. Most people are misled and hoodwinked and do not benefit at all from it. Is this method of underhanded manipulation that antichrists employ in line with the truth principles? Is this acting according to God's requirements? So when these manifestations of antichrists engaging in underhanded manipulation are discovered, should the antichrists be pruned? Should they be exposed and rejected? Engaging in underhanded manipulation is one concrete manifestation of antichrists. What other manifestations are common when antichrists work?
Antichrists suppress and torment people for the sake of their own status.
It is a most common thing for antichrists to torment other people, and it is one of their concrete manifestations. In order to maintain their status, antichrists are always demanding that everyone obey and heed them. If they find that someone does not heed them or is antipathetic and resistant toward them, they will adopt the tactics of suppressing and tormenting that person in order to subdue them. Antichrists often suppress those whose opinions are different from their own. They often suppress people who pursue the truth and loyally do their duties. They often suppress people of relative decency and uprightness who do not flatter or toady up to them. They suppress those who do not get along with or yield to them. Antichrists do not treat others based on the truth principles. They cannot treat people fairly. When they take a dislike to someone, when someone seems to have not yielded to them at heart, they find chances and excuses, and even come up with various pretexts to attack and torment that person, going so far as to take up the banner of doing the church work to suppress them. They do not relent until people have become pliant and dare not say no to them. They do not relent until people have acknowledged their status and power, greet them with a smile, express endorsement and compliance toward them, and do not dare to get any ideas about them. In any situation, in any group, the word fairness does not exist in an antichrist's treatment of others, and the word loving does not exist in their treatment of brothers and sisters who truly believe in God. They regard whoever constitutes a threat to their status as a nail in their eye and a thorn in their side, and they will find chances and pretexts to torment them. If that person does not yield, they torment them, and do not stop until that person is subdued. Antichrist's doing this is very out of line with the truth principles, and in enmity with the truth. So should they be pruned? Not only that, nothing less than exposing, discerning, and classifying them will do. An antichrist treats everyone according to their own preferences, their own intents and aims. Under their authority, whoever has a sense of justice, whoever can speak fairly, whoever dares to fight injustice, whoever holds to the truth principles, whoever is genuinely talented and learned, whoever can bear testimony to God. All such people will meet with the Antichrist's jealousy, and they will be suppressed, excluded, and even trampled beneath the Antichrist's foot, to the point they cannot rise again. Such is the hatred with which an Antichrist treats good people and those who pursue the truth. It can be said that more or less, the majority of those whom an Antichrist feels jealous of and suppresses are positive figures and good people. Most of them are people whom God will save, whom God can make use of, whom God will make perfect. In employing such tactics of suppression and exclusion against those whom God will save, use, and make perfect, are antichrists not opponents of God? Are they not people who resist God? As they feel jealous of, attack, and exclude those who pursue the truth like this, they are directly disturbing the work of the church and the life entry of God's chosen people. This kind of Antichrist is not only antagonistic toward God incarnate, but also toward those who follow God and those who pursue the truth. This is an authentic Antichrist. Should God's chosen people be discerning toward this kind of manifestation of antichrists? Should they expose and reject antichrists? Can the kind of disposition that antichrists have be resolved by fellowshipping the truth? Their disposition is one of hating the truth and God, and they absolutely will not accept or submit to the truth. Therefore, the only way to handle such authentic antichrists is to expose, discern, and then reject such people. This is wholly in line with the truth principles and with God's intentions. Antichrists tormenting God's chosen people in this way is clearly them setting themselves up in confrontation with God and vying with God for His chosen people. They resent those they are unable to mislead and control. They are unable to gain these people, but they also do not allow God to gain them either. In this way, are they not playing the role of Satan in the church, who vies with God for God's chosen people and brings harm and ruination upon them? Antichrists wish to keep God's chosen people who pursue the truth under their thumb, preventing God from gaining them, and they also wish to mislead all those who follow God and make these people follow them, ruining their chances at salvation. Only then will they have achieved their goal. Are the antichrists who harm people to death not the archenemies of God? You should be able to discern them. What other manifestations do antichrists have?
They go against work arrangements and just do things their own way.
There are some similarities between this and establishing one's own independent kingdom and underhanded manipulation, but it is also another specific manifestation. How do antichrists do things their own way?
The above issues work arrangements to require God's chosen people to discern false leaders and antichrists. But some antichrists don't implement these work arrangements. Instead, they use the pretext of, you can only discern other people once you're able to discern yourself, to get everyone to know themselves, preventing brothers and sisters from discerning false leaders and antichrists.
This is opposing the above's work arrangements. as well as doing things their own way. What else?
Antichrists have their own ideas about the above's work arrangements. Outwardly, it seems like they are able to implement these arrangements and that they are fellowshipping with the brothers and sisters. But they never follow up on or ask after these things, and just disregard them afterward.
Antichrists doing things their own way primarily means that no matter what work the above is arranging, or what work the above requires those below to implement, Antichrists will put it to one side, ignore it, not convey it, and not implement it. And then they will do what they want, what they are willing to do, and what will benefit them. For example, in the issuing of the books of God's words, according to the Church's principles of book distribution, everyone who lives a normal church life is to have a book. But when an Antichrist sees this, they think, a book for everyone. Wouldn't that be a bad deal for me? It can't be one book per person. I have to carry out and implement this work based on what each person specifically thinks of me. It shouldn't just be about living a normal church life, but about who generally gives more in offerings. Without exception, people who don't give any offerings or who are poor shouldn't get a book. If they beg me for one and cough up some cash, then, based on how they're acting, I'll decide whether or not to give them one. Is this doing things according to the principles? What are they doing? They're doing things their own way. Doing things their own way means setting up their own policies outside of existing work arrangements, acting according to those policies in their local church, not implementing the work arrangements and the principles required by God's house at all, and acting instead according to their own aims and goals. Ostensibly, they have been distributing books, and it appears that task was completed. But what was their basis for doing it? It wasn't based on the work arrangements of God's house or church rules. It was based on their own policies, their own approaches. This is doing things their own way. They don't show any submission at all to the work arrangements of God's house. They are unable to strictly implement or execute them, and instead secretly establish many of their own rules and regulations which they practice and implement within their local church. This is not only setting up their own independent kingdom, even more so, it is doing things their own way. In other words, when they implement work arrangements in their local church, they are doing their own thing, something different from the work arrangements that have been issued by the above and implemented in other churches. On the surface, they've gone through the motions. They've received the work arrangements and read them, but they have their own methods for how they're specifically implemented. They simply disregard the work arrangements of God's house and openly violate them. This is called doing things their own way. Why do antichrists do things their own way?
They want to wield power within the church, and they want the final say on everything.
Right. They just want to hold power. They look for and seize any and all opportunities to gain power and control others, to get others to heed them, obey them, and fear them. They wish to use their different practices to control others, to make everyone know that only they hold power in this place, and no one else, that it is simply impossible for others to not go through them, to go over their head, and that no one can surpass them. They primarily want to control God's chosen people and seize power. It is very clear that Antichrists behaving in this way is not handling things according to the truth principles or the requirements of God's house. It is not something a leader or anyone who is doing their duty normally should do. So, when Antichrists exhibit this manifestation, should they be pruned? Should they be exposed and rejected? What are some of the other manifestations of Antichrists?
Antichrists steal offerings, spend the money of God's house for their own enjoyment, and revel in special privileges.
Reveling in special privileges is one specific manifestation. The moment an Antichrist gains status, then there's no holding them back. They see other people as things to be trampled underfoot, and in everything they do, they want to steal the limelight, to take full advantage. They strive to gain the upper hand in everything they do, as well as when they speak. Whatever seat they sit in, they want it to be special. Whatever treatment they enjoy in God's house, they want it to be better than what anyone else receives. They want everyone to think more highly of them and have a higher opinion of them than anyone else. When they don't have status, they want to snatch it. And as soon as they do have status, they become incredibly arrogant. Anyone speaking to them must gaze up at them. No one can walk side by side with them, and instead must stay 1 or 2 steps behind. No one can speak to them too loudly or too harshly, use the wrong words, or look at them in the wrong way. They will nitpick all and will have something to say about them. No one can offend them or criticize them. Instead, everyone must be respectful to them, fawn on them, and flatter them. Once an Antichrist gains status, they will act arbitrarily and willfully everywhere they go, and show off so that others will esteem them. Not only do they revel in status and really value the esteem of others, material pleasures are also particularly important to them. They want to stay with hosts that provide the best treatment. No matter who their host is, they have particular demands regarding what they eat, and if the food isn't good enough, they'll find a chance to prune their host. They refuse to accept any substandard pleasures. Their food, clothing, lodging, and transportation must all be a cut above. Average will simply not do. They cannot accept things that are the same as what the regular brothers and sisters receive. If others are getting up at 5 or 6 a.m., they will get up at 7 or 8 a.m. The best food and items must be reserved for them. Even the offerings that people make must be sifted through by them first, and they'll keep whatever is nice or valuable, or whatever catches their eye, and leave the leftovers for the church. And there's one other most disgusting thing that Antichrists do. What is it? Once they have status, their appetite grows, their horizons broaden, and they learn to enjoy themselves, after which they develop a desire to spend money, to consume, and consequently want to have to themselves all the money the church uses for its work, to allocate it however they like, to control it according to their wishes. Antichrists particularly revel in this kind of power and this kind of treatment, and once they do have power, they want to sign their name on everything, like all the checks and various agreements. They want to enjoy that feeling of incessantly scribbling their signature with a pen, of squandering money like water. When an Antichrist does not have status, no one can see these manifestations in them, or that they are this type of person, that they have this kind of disposition, that they would do such things. But as soon as they gain status, this all gets revealed. If they are elected in the morning, by that afternoon they become incredibly arrogant. They stick their nose up in the air, their head swells, and they have no regard for ordinary people. The change happens very quickly. But actually, they have not changed. They have just been revealed. They put on these arrogant airs, and what are they going to do? They want to live off the church, to indulge in the benefits of status. Anytime someone puts out a spread of delicious food, they begin scarfing it down, while demanding health supplements to maintain that stinking flesh of theirs. Antichrists reveling in special privileges often occurs. There are just differences in terms of the degree of severity. When any person who clings to fleshly pleasures becomes a leader, they want to revel in special privileges. This is the disposition of Antichrists. The moment they gain status, they become completely different. They keep all the pleasures and special treatment that come along with status firmly and securely in their sights, in their grasp, and will not let go of, loosen their grip on a single shred of them, or allow any bit of them to slip away. Which of these manifestations and practices of Antichrists is acting according to the truth principles? Not a single one. Each and every one of them is nauseating and loathsome to behold. Not only are their practices and manifestations not in line with truth principles, but they certainly don't possess the slightest bit of conscience, reason, or a sense of shame. When Antichrists have status, aside from recklessly committing misdeeds and working on their own power and status, they not only fail to do anything that would benefit the church's work or the brothers and sisters' life entry, they also revel in the benefits of status, fleshly pleasures, and people looking up to them and venerating them. Some Antichrists even find people to serve them, having the tea they drink served to them by others, having the clothes they wear washed by others, and even having a particular person who scrubs their back when they bathe, and one who waits on them when they eat. Worse still, some even have a set menu for each of the day's 3 meals. And on top of this, they want to take health supplements and to have all kinds of different soups boiled for them. Do Antichrists have shame? No, they do not. Would you say that it is somewhat lenient to simply prune that type of person? Will pruning them make them feel shame?
It won't.
So, how can this issue be resolved? It is quite simple. After pruning, expose them and let them know what they are. Whether or not they yield to this, they should be dismissed, and everyone should reject them. Once you have discovered an antichrist, can you reject them? Do you dare to stand up to report and expose them?
Yes.
Do you truly dare or not? When you have others to back you up now, you will dare to stand up and expose them. But without support, will you still have that courage? It is safe where you are now, without the great red dragon reigning. So you think, what do I have to fear? Aren't they just an antichrist? With God as our backer, I have the courage to expose the antichrist, and I am not afraid. However, it is different in the country of the great red dragon. If you expose an antichrist and they lose their status, then they will dare to torment you, sell you out, and deliver you into the hands of the authorities. Would you still dare to expose them?
Perhaps not.
Perhaps not. Your attitude will change immediately. In that environment, you would not dare to expose them. So, is not daring to expose them correct? It is not correct. You have no testimony, and it means that you are not an overcomer. It is not something a follower of God should say. Suppose that you keep quiet, but your heart cries out again and again, "You Antichrist, you devil and Satan, I will expose you. I will use wisdom to reject you and cleanse you away from the church. You are not worthy of dwelling in God's house. You are a devil. You are a Satan. Even though I do not expose you publicly with my words, I reject you from the bottom of my heart. I will seek out more brothers and sisters who understand the truth, and together we will reject you. We will not accept your leadership or your manipulation. Is this the correct way to act? The environment may be adverse, and publicly exposing an antichrist may put you in jeopardy. But God's commission, the truth principles, and your duty cannot be renounced or abandoned. As for those antichrists who revel in special privileges, who unabashedly enjoy the benefits of status, we should reject them and not allow them to become parasites in the house of God, or to harm or mislead any more brothers and sisters. We should cleanse them away. The resources of God's house are not for supporting these parasites. They are not worthy of eating within God's house, nor are they worthy of enjoying everything in God's house. Why is this? Because they are devils, and they deserve to be rejected. This is another manifestation of antichrists, reveling in special privileges, the shameless reveling in special privileges. Without contributing anything, as soon as they attain a position of leadership, they seize power, indulge in the benefits of their status, and force brothers and sisters to cook and buy delicious food for them, robbing them of their hard-earned property and extorting their money and items. To them, it is a matter of course, an invaluable opportunity, a chance that will not come again. Is this not the way a devil thinks? What shameless thinking it is! This type of person should be pruned, exposed, and rejected by the brothers and sisters. What are some other manifestations of antichrists? Is deceiving those above and below oneself a specific manifestation? Antichrists are inherently wicked. They don't possess a heart of honesty, of love for the truth, or of love for positive things. They are often living in dark corners. They do not act with an attitude of honesty. They are not forthright in their words, and they are wicked and deceitful toward other people and God. They want to deceive others and to deceive God as well. They will not accept others' supervision, much less God's scrutiny. When they are among other people, they never want anyone to know what, deep down, they are thinking and planning, what sort of person they are, and what attitude they harbor toward the truth, and so on. They don't want others to know any of this, and they also want to wheedle God, to keep him in the dark. That's why when an antichrist doesn't have status, when they don't have opportunities to manipulate the situation in a group of people, then no one can really figure out what lies behind their words and actions. People will wonder, what are they thinking about each day? Are there any intents behind their performance of their duty? Are they revealing corruption? Do they feel any jealousy or hatred toward others? Do they have any biases against other people? What are their views on what others say? What do they think when they encounter certain things? Antichrists never let others know what is really going on with them. Even if they do express a few words about their opinion on something, they will be vague and ambiguous. They will talk in circles so that others can't tell what they're trying to convey, and don't know what they want to say or what they're trying to express, leaving everyone scratching their heads. After someone like that gains status, they become even more surreptitious in their behavior around other people. They want to protect their ambitions, their reputation, their image and their name, their status and dignity, and so on. That's why they don't want to be upfront about how they do things or their motives for doing things. Even when they make a mistake, reveal a corrupt disposition, or when the motives and intents behind their actions are wrong, they don't want to open up and allow others to find out about it. And they often put up an appearance of innocence and perfection to trick the brothers and sisters. And with the above and with God, they only say nice-sounding things, and often use deceptive tactics and lies to maintain their relationship with the above. When they report to the above on their work and talk to the above, they never say anything unpleasant, so that no one can discover any of their weak points. They will never mention what they've done down below, any of the issues that have arisen in the church, the problems or flaws in their work, or things they can't understand or see through to. They never ask or seek with the above about these things, and instead just present an image and appearance of competence in their work, of being capable of completely shouldering their work. They don't report any of the problems that exist in the church to the above, and no matter how chaotic things may be in the church, the magnitude of the flaws that have appeared in their work, or exactly what they've been doing down below, they repeatedly cover all that up, endeavoring to never let the above catch wind of or hear any news about these things, even going so far as to transfer people who are connected to these matters or who know the truth about them to faraway places, in an effort to conceal what's really going on. What sort of practices are these? What kind of behavior is this? Is it the sort of manifestation a person who pursues the truth ought to have? Very clearly, it is not. This is the behavior of a demon. Antichrists will do their utmost to conceal, to cover up anything that could have an impact on their status or reputation, keeping these things from other people and from God. This is deceiving those above and below them. They'll often say to those below them, "The above thinks so highly of me and values me so much. The above has assigned such and such tasks to me, entrusting me with such important work. They take really good care of me, giving me guidance for my work, and they have really taken on responsibility for my life too. The above pruned me because of such and such matters, and I accepted it in such and such way, and my understanding of it is such and such. Look at how much God loves me. He has personally pruned me and given me personal guidance in my work." And to the above, they assume a manner of taking a great deal of responsibility for their work, of deeply caring for the brothers and sisters, and of fully devoting their heart and strength. But they will never utter a word about a brother or sister putting forward a different idea or opinion to them, or about any flaws or deviations in their work. They do their utmost to maintain a good relationship with those below them, while trying their hardest to keep various truths about them from the above, terrified of being dismissed if the above finds out what's really going on with them. Is this not deceiving those above and below them? The moment an antichrist seizes power, they do absolutely everything they can to keep the truth about themselves hidden, so that no one can see through to their true state, their real situation, or their actual humanity or work abilities. They will use all sorts of tactics and means to hide these things, so that they can gain a firm footing and enjoy their power and the benefits of status forever. Deceiving those above and below oneself is something that only antichrists do. Is it in line with the truth principles? Is this a manifestation someone who serves God ought to possess? Is it a manifestation someone who pursues the truth ought to possess? So, when an antichrist possesses this kind of manifestation, this kind of disposition, should they be pruned?